It's spooky season! It's Halloween today, chaps! And you know what that means? We need a scary game. And what is more scary than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Herobrine! Herobrine has cursed our world before, but now, why don't we go to him and destroy the evil menace that is Herobrine? I can't take this seriously. So, I coerced my mate Josh into joining us on this quest to eradicate Herobrine from the world. So after the shortest training arc ever, Oh shoot, there's the man himself! Ah! We were thrown into this dark forest laced with spruce wood trees. And of course, my first instinct was to return to Monkey and hide and jump in the trees. But there it was, Herobrine's mansion. And we got ambushed by a bunch of fellas with leaves on their heads. In hindsight, I think that we were supposed to have like some sort of fancy texture pack on, but however, we needed more friends. So we strolled up to this lovely little house and rescued this chap called Victor! And now that we have somehow made Victor an acquaintance, we were able to trade in bones and rotten flesh for food. I mean, not entirely sure why Victor needs those things, but he's Victor. Don't question him. He could kill you in a heartbeat. So after I stole a new sword and Josh somehow stole pants, we left his establishment. We decided to try and stroll up to the entrance of Herobrine's mansion, but instead we encountered an abnormal amount of zombies and skeletons. So we stole their clothes, and then stole their lives, which is quite ironic, considering we were in the perfect place to bury their bodies, the graveyard. So in order to find out Herobrine's dastardly plans, we made the decision to go and find this chap known as the Skeleton King. I bet you won't be able to guess what kind of monster he commands. I know! He commands skeletons! It's revolutionary, I know. Oh, look, a nice spooky little cavern stronghold thingy. Let's enter it, because Josh and I were both pretty sure that the Skeleton King would reside down here. But we couldn't find out before these zombies reared their ugly heads around the corner to greet us. So we didn't have many issues taking them out, because they only had bows, so we could just stand far away enough for them to not hit us, because for some reason, these zombies are incapable of using an arrow. Then, after slashing our way through the horde of zombies, we fiddled a few levers, and a new pathway was now open to us. And our first instinct in this new room was to step on the trapdoors. No, literally, not only were they trapdoors, but they also set off traps. And they woke up Herobrine, telling the Skeleton King to wake up and murder us. So at the very least, we know that our hunch about the Skeleton King was right, and Herobrine somehow does have a connection to him. Look at these casual zombies, desperately trying to murder me as I ensure they stay deceased. We ventured further into this cursed stronghold, and then, BAM! Now we're thrown into this prison cell, filled with a bunch of previous inhabitants. Although the cells were unlocked, so I'm not particularly certain as to why they didn't just stroll out if they were the previous inhabitants of these cells. But regardless, we robbed the prison of all their belongings, grabbed some shiny iron armor and an upgraded sword, and then we had to maneuver our way around the darkness maze, as the Skeleton King was near, and somehow could make us blind? Josh and I lost each other throughout the maze, because I had an instinctive desire to start attacking any monster I saw, and those mobs were unfortunately Endermen, which took me down to an unfortunate amount of heart. But while I was doing that, Josh somehow found the way out, which was great and all, but now he had to somehow come and find me! Josh was able to see my name tag though, so it was like a game of hot or cold, where the closer I got to Josh, the more high-pitched his voice would get! He re-entered the maze to rescue me, just as I found where the Skeleton King was located. So after we reunited, we decided to take him on. And he was surprisingly easy to kill. He was only focused on murdering Josh, so I had free reign to inflict as much damage as possible. And even Herobrine was surprised at how pathetic of a boss battle the Skeleton King was. But we had gained one piece of valuable information. In order to get to Herobrine, we needed to kill all of his mates first. So our first mission was to hunt down Beneatha the Witch. And after catching up with our friend Victor, along with having some lovely transactions take place, we entered Herobrine's mansion. We decided to explore the left side of Herobrine's enormous mansion first, and were greeted with a huge horde of monsters. Though there was a bit of a flaw with this onslaught of monsters, and that flaw was that they dropped their diamond swords and their diamond armor, which we could steal and use for our own personal gain. But we couldn't particularly find anything on the left side of the mansion, so we just went right instead. And instead of exploring Herobrine's mansion, we were now exploring Herobrine's basement! Do you want to know who he was keeping in his basement? You know, the witch one, yeah. I want to know what she was doing?
drugs!
She was making potions. So obviously this was a crime punishable by death. And death was indeed what we tried to give to her as we defeated the boss. We only had 2 of Herobrine's friends left to brutally murder. And so naturally, we strolled upstairs and got absolutely pelted across the room by these skeleton lads. Honestly though, Herobrine must be having a blimmin' house party or something, because all of his mates are just chilling in his house. I mean, look, the Spider Queen, she's just up here in his attic. So we needed to dust off the cobwebs of our combat abilities and find the queen in this room of cobwebs. However, we didn't need to look for long, because she found us first. And it was quite anticlimactic, honestly. It was literally just a spider, but with strength and speed buff. So finally, the last one of Herobrine's companions we had yet to annihilate was Zatho the Mage. And honestly, he was the most fun to battle, as he'd blind you, teleport you, summon these floating pumpkin dudes, and set you on fire if he touches you. Like, there was some actual thought put into this boss battle, which is already more than what I've seen for the other bosses of this map. He also had a ton of health, so while he was recovering from his abilities, even though Josh and I were whacking him as hard as we could, he could tank most of our hits, but he couldn't tank all of them. And enough of our hits hit him to kill him! And now all that was left was for us to battle Herobrine. And you want to know what wacky power Herobrine has unlocked? The power to resurrect all of his mates to come kill us! Which begs the question, is that not the first time his friends have experienced death? And so, if in doubt, the best way out is to run away and scream, which is exactly what I was doing for the majority of the time! Ah! And who can blame me for doing that when Herobrine is moving at the speed of sound? But we had the idea of targeting Herobrine because if we killed him, everyone else would go away. But this is when Josh revealed he just had an enchanted golden apple just sitting in his inventory the entire time! And with this, we were able to kill Herobrine and bring him to justice. But he swore he'd return because he had created a wither. So we needed to stop him before the world was destroyed and all that, you know, mumbo jumbo. So after meeting up with Victor's long lost cousin, we arrived at where the wither would be located. However, this wither was apparently super powerful, and the only way we could kill him was by harvesting these crystals of anger by slaughtering, you know, all of his companions and all of his minions. So once we had 10 of these crystals of anger, we'd be able to craft a super powerful bow to kill the wither. And then we did that a few times, but then I realized Josh was getting really low on health points, so I needed to defeat the wither as soon as I could. And so we crafted the bow, but it was extremely low on durability. I could only fire it 3 times before it broke. But I didn't have time for that! So I rushed up to greet Josh, and no! Josh was dead. And so I decided to lure the wither all the way to the bottom of the map, so I could get close to it and impale it with my sword. And I did exactly that, and I killed it. So, I did what any sane person would do in this situation, and went to sleep. So I have like, I don't know, like a 3-year time skip, and Victor has had a glow up! And so had I, apparently, as I had a beard. But Herobrine had returned to the village, and of course, powered by the prospect of possibly murdering some chaps, I stole Victor's belongings once again and stormed out of the village that was apparently under threat from Herobrine. But just like old habits, my first instinct was to jump on top of trees. And Herobrine appears to have increased in power too, because these zombie people are spawning way more frequently than they were previously. Frequent enough, but I actually didn't fight them, and just sprinted away. And after watching 2 skeletons duel each other as a twisted form of entertainment, I entered the village, where apparently, even Herobrine had a changed appearance! He had also grown pupils somehow, which means he wasn't really Herobrine, it was just like Steve but evil. Like, the whole point of his character is that he doesn't have pupils, and then look at this, he has pupils! What is wrong with? Although, at least he fights with honor. Because at least Herobrine was pleasant enough to only set fire to the houses when I was near him to watch. And that was all he needed to do, because he just dipped afterwards. So I strolled into the church of the village after robbing the local villagers of their belongings, and basically just told the priest here, yeah, sure, I'll save your village. It's not because I, you know, have an odd desire to destroy Herobrine's life. And then I went on a side quest to kill a necromancer fella inside of some sort of graveyard. Seems slightly familiar. Necromancer dude was saying how, you know, he was doing a spell of some sort. So I just ripped the hearts out of these zombies and used them as offerings. And then, blimmin' Thanos came and opened a hole to hell! No, genuinely, his name is literally Thanos. So it was our job to squeeze Necromancer into this little hellhole so that he would die. And so once again, we went down to defeat the long-lost cousin of the Skeleton King, Skeletor, who was present in this wacky cave down here. Before you ask, no, Thanos did not come and help me. He was too busy, I don't know, collecting the Infinity Stones. So I encountered the skeleton chap, shot him in the eyes a few times, dodged a few flying creepers, all to the soothing sound of the Minecraft soundtrack, and then Skeletor was defeated. Still hadn't saved the village from anyone yet though, just kind of slaughtered anyone with an evil sounding name. Oh, and then I took a trip to heaven. With the press of this button, I'm now at the heaven shop. Good to see capitalism last, even in the afterlife. But the prices in heaven were too high, so I couldn't afford anything at this point in time. Turns out, when Herobrine left the village, he actually just went for some sort of leisurely stroll inside of the Nether, of which was now corrupting the overworld. So I roamed up to the source of the corruption, which was particularly easy to find considering there's a huge living lava waterfall, and I had the bright idea of going near it, which might have accidentally teleported me to Herobrine's home realm, which was quite funny because I swear Herobrine's home was just his lovely little mansion. And after maneuvering my way around fallen debris and the absolute atrocity that is this house's layout, I encountered a witch called Dinnerbone. Shame she isn't upside down, because that would have made this boss battle actually somewhat interesting. I just had to fight all of her failed experiments of mobs. And by failed, I mean they just put a metric ton of, like, potion effects on them. And even though Dinnerbone had invited me to her laboratory, I had to decline her offer. Because Thanos' airship was under attack! How did Thanos get into this dimension? I literally have no clue. But in order to save his airship from the enemy airship, blowing the pair of us up, I needed to fuel the cannons using gunpowder dropped from these skeleton people. Which sounds all well and good, right? Well, it wasn't! Because about half of the time, the gunpowder literally wouldn't load! But it was all fine in the end, because I fired a few cannons, and then the enemy ship was defeated, after only 4 cannon shots. And somehow, our airship had withstand a lot more than that, and was perfectly fine! The power of the Infinity Stones, I suppose. But once that was all done and dusted, Thanos told me to go kill this guy inside of this tower. I think I was actually supposed to kill him, but I just fell off the airship and then fell down the tower, and I was able to entirely avoid that boss fight, like unintentionally. But from the noises, it just sounded like another Wither, and considering Josh died to the Wither before this, I didn't want to take any chances. And after making one of the most dodgy treks I think I've ever done, I crossed over debris of a bridge in lava. I followed the path, curious as to where it would take me, and you know where it took me? Over to this big lad over here! He'd shoot fireballs at me, I'd shoot arrows in his hands and arms. Thing is, I was able to dodge his shots, but let's say he was a bit more confined and didn't exactly have the best dodging skills possible, and I blew up both of his arms. Big lad was now no arms lad, so now I only had 2 tasks left. To destroy the witch who invited me to a date at her laboratory, and to kill Herobrine. I figured I'd go on my date with the witch first though, because it would be abnormally rude to keep her waiting. Never mind, I want to go home! I want to leave! Holy Victor! Why did you steal Victor? Victor, no! I broke a few glass vases, then pulled an Uno reverse card on the witch and but it's fine, because Victor was safe! And so all that was left was to end Herobrine's reign. He had put Victor in danger. That was a crime punishable by death. So I strolled up to his lovely little house, avoided as many guards as I could, and then, while trying to get an epic thumbnail, mind you, I got thrown into a prison. I got beaten up a little bit, and then BAM! Thanos is alive! So I needed to slaughter Herobrine's minions, harvest their organs, and donate them to Thanos so he could use some super powerful blast on Herobrine. I know, it's a little bit cursed, but trust me, this entire map is cursed, and I've only shown the bits that are appropriate to show on YouTube. And now that Thanos has weakened Herobrine, it was my job to go in and finish him off. And that I did. Well, I guess there is no humble way of saying it, but, I saved the world. I saved the village, got rid of the nether corruption, saved Victor, and all was saved. And it might not be saving the world, but you know what else will make you a hero? If you hit that subscribe button right now!